Like if you're looking to study in Canada and wish to do so after graduation, then I think one of the burning questions you need to answer is, should I go for a postgraduate diploma or a certificate course, or should I go for a master's degree? My name is Anand Venkatesan. I'm the founder and mentor of this platform called mentorscapital.com. Our platform is entirely predicated on, mentorship. We believe that by connecting students with mentors across the globe, we help students make better and informed choices and hopefully get you success in your study abroad dreams. All right, let's get this session started, right? The burning question is, should you go for a postgraduate diploma or should you go for a master's degree? And while on the face of it, it does sound like one is, a little more technical, one is a little more, one is a degree and the other one is a diploma, but it turns out that this choice is not as plain as it sounds. The key questions that I'm going to answer in today's video, one, is the postgraduate diploma really better? Is the master's degree really better than the postgraduate diploma? Or is the PG diploma or certificate worth considering? Number two, what are the key parameters I should use? Because obviously there's no one standard answer, right? So should you look at A or B, and what are the parameters? How does that relate to me? And number three, what are the top fields of study? Because it's not like you can go and study anything. There are some occupations, some areas, some fields which have a greater demand in Canada, right? So we'll cover these three aspects in today's video. Right? Remember, we have a vast pool of mentors from diverse fields, and these are experts who can help you with, test preparation, figuring out colleges and universities, even programs of study, and also help you craft better answers, better essays, and tackle interviews in a more confident way. Right? So that's the way we work. To the question, right? How do I compare a master's degree with a diploma or a certificate course? Should I straight away brush off a PG diploma if I'm, if I'm competitive, if I if I have big aspirations, or is there something else to the story? Well, it turns out that there are 6 aspects that I would like to look at. I would want you to consider. Number one is duration, right? Now, most diploma or certificate courses tend to be 1-year duration. I know there are a few which have a 2-year duration, but the first consideration is that masters, well, there are some 1-year programs, but most research-based masters, if I was in your shoes, I'd like to go for a 2-year master's also because, 2-year program gets me that work permit, right? For 3 years of postgraduate work permit in Canada, right? So you should prefer a master's program. But it turns out that even diploma courses, while most of them are 1-year programs, you can actually do back-to-back diplomas, right? You could, and the 1+1, diploma, diploma option helps you avail of the the work permit plan, right? So 3-year work permit that you get. So that is one consideration. The second consideration, inherently within this is that master's programs mostly tend to start in the September intake, right? And you typically start preparing and applying 1 year in advance. So fall or September 2023, you're applying right now. But diplomas or certificates tend to have a lot more variation, right? It's still about 60-70% of diploma courses, will begin in September, but there's also a big chunk of, admissions which happens for the January and the May intake. So even if you don't get through one intake, you can actually target the other. You can actually aim for the other one, right? So that's, in fact, I'd say maybe, you can also look at one as a backup option, maybe apply for a master's, and then if it doesn't work out, look at a diploma in a later intake. That's also a way of planning it out. All right. Number 2, what about eligibility, right? So what kind of a student typically, is able to study a postgraduate diploma? Is it easier to get it? And it turns out the verdict is indeed that it's easier to get into a diploma or a certificate course. The requirements are very, very basic. It simply requires you to have a pass typically about 55-60% marks in your graduation. Maybe a related discipline. They don't really insist as heavily on that. But it helps if you have, studied in a related discipline, especially for, not for admission, but for visa purposes, right? Master's programs, on the other hand, definitely require you to have, done well academically. About a 70% is what most Canadian universities, at least the top ones, require you to have scored, which translates into about 7.5, 7.6 kind of a CGPA, right? So diploma courses are easier to get in. Master's programs tend to have a more stringent requirement. In fact, even, this is a very generic sort of information given over here. If you're applying for a specific program, there might be there might be program specific requirements as well that you need to meet, right? So that's the other thing to consider. The third big consideration is that, cost. Master's programs tend to cost you about 30 lakhs per annum, right? Give or take. There are programs which, are a little cheaper than this. And obviously, if you have a good profile, then, in Canada, you can also avail of scholarships, right? But it turns out that it's still, a multiple of the cost that you would incur if you were to go for a diploma course. So, if you're unsure, you don't want to spend a great deal of money, the diplomas are a great option of, getting into Canada, getting into the workforce and gaining some job worthy skills. So, 8 to 10 lakhs, even if you put, 1+1 option, 2 1-year diplomas, then the cost doesn't really double. It maybe works out about 15 to 17 lakhs. So that's your total outlay, besides obviously the money that you need to do for visa requirements and immigration requirements. So do keep those things in mind when you're considering what program to choose. Number 4, like I said before, most diploma courses, they do not have any scholarships, right? But the ones that offer degrees, universities offer degrees, colleges offer diplomas. So although there are some universities that also offer diplomas and certificate programs, but as a general rule, universities tend to offer degrees, and universities tend to have central and private grants which go towards funding student education. Both need-based and merit-based scholarships are available, and I think if you want to be realistic, maybe about 5 to 7 lakhs. If you have a strong profile, merit-based, about 5 to 7 lakhs can happen, especially if you're a woman candidate. I think a lot of importance is given to a lot of, scholarships are specifically focused on furthering, equity and diversity, goals. So, a scholarship amount of about 5 to 7 lakhs seems possible. But diploma courses, don't look at any scholarship. That's not going to happen, right? So very, very limited options as far as diploma courses go. Although I'd still say they come cheaper, and some of these diploma courses also have built-in capstone projects, built-in co-op options. So, for a fraction of the money, you can actually gain some real life work experience and enter the, get an exposure of the job market. Really, really helpful. Unless you obviously want to specialize, obviously there are some advantages of the degree programs too, right? Something like the job market will value you a lot more if you're a master's candidate, if you're a degree holder, and you get more points, from a residency perspective, more points accumulated if you are a master's degree holder. So there are some inherent advantages to, pursuing a master's degree as well. Number 4, I did talk about eligibility, that, masters are harder to get in. And that's also borne out by the fact that master's programs, some of them at least, also require to have a good GRE or a GMAT score, right? And so that, could mean additional time to prepare, additional time to take the exam, maybe even resources to spend in preparing for the test, right? So those are things to need to keep in mind. For a typical diploma or a certificate course, requirements are fairly straightforward. You just need an English language, proficiency test, and, a band of 6.5 is the bare minimum. It's recommended that you target a 7+ or even an 8+ band. It really helps with, residency later on, but, a 6.5 is the bare minimum. All right. And finally, the icing on the cake is the fact that, a 2-year program gets you a 3-year work permit. So there's a very, very good chance that if you do a 2-year master's, that, you're going to be allowed to stay and work in Canada for a duration of 3 years, right? But in case you're a PG diploma holder, then a 1-year diploma only gets you a 1-year work permit. And even if you go for the 1+1 option, you need to, get admission into the second program before the first program has been completed. Remember that, right? Otherwise, if you complete one and then start the next, then it only becomes 1 year for the first program, and 1 more year for the second. So you don't really get that extra bonus year, right? So those are your broad considerations, and I'm going to try and put this all together in terms of 5 reasons why you should prefer a master's degree. Number one, prefer a master's degree if you are academically competent, if you've done well in college, and I think most people who've done well in college also tend to be competitive, tend to expect more of themselves, right? So if you've scored 70% or more in your undergrad degree, think of a master's a lot more seriously. Number two, language proficiency is important. If you have a 7+ on the IELTS, then again prefer a master's degree, because the idea here is that, in fact, I'd say 8+, prefer a master's degree, because the idea is that master's degree gets you, more points towards a PR. The higher IELTS score, language proficiency score, gives you a distinct advantage. Master's degree probably also leads to a job. There's a greater sort of pathway to a job, especially if you're from a preferred field in Canada, right? So that's reason number two. Reason number three, well, this one is an obvious. If you wish to go for a specialized, program that gives you research or gives you, an internship or a co-op program in your desired field. Let's say, today I think the hot fields in Canada are areas like supply chain, energy, construction, analytics. If you're entering one of these fields in Canada, then go for a master's degree, because it gives you that extra buffer of year 2 where you can specialize in your chosen field. You can also intern, right? You can also work with companies on live projects and internships and get a real-time experience of the job market. And I think these are very, very critical if you want to get success outside of India, right? So that's reason number 3. Reason number 4, if you're in a hurry for the PR, then go for a master's degree, because, like I said, it gives you more, it gives you more points according to the PR. Master's gets you more points. It also, makes your process quicker. The job that you get will also be a notch higher, will also get you, more PR points. Remember, everything is scaled, right? Everything is relative in terms of PR, in terms of residency. So a master's degree really, boosts your chances of getting into a permanent residency in Canada, right? And reason number 5, I think, well, this is kind of important. You either need to be financially secure, or at least in your mind, you need to be secure about, making up the, investment that you're making on your education. Because if you're going in for a master's, even if it's not going to be about 60-70 lakhs, maybe a little less than that based on scholarship, it's still a large sum of money to sort of take a risk on. You're not going to get a loan on the entire sum. Some amount of money you might need to put on the table. So make sure that you think about it long and hard. In fact, a lot of mid-career, graduates also consider, a master's versus a diploma. And if you're a mid-career professional, somebody in the maybe late 20s or early 30s, it becomes risky for pretty much this reason. You probably have a family, and spending this kind of money could be a big risk to take. And you're also in a hurry to sort of, get your life up and started in the new country. So, I don't think you leave yourself that much of a time window to recover your investment and also to secure your family, right? So there's a bit of a risk involved if you're but if you're older. But if you're a young graduate, if you're 21 or 22, then you have all the time in the world to take a risk in the first twilight of your career. So I think these are the primary reasons why you should take the master's degree a lot more seriously. On the other hand, 3 top reasons to prefer a diploma. Number 1, you're not, you don't have very, very strong academics. And you also don't have a great deal of specialization, or maybe you want to change it, right? Maybe you've done commerce, maybe you've done humanities, and you figure that you can handle, a technical role in supply chain or project management, or or digital marketing or something like that. But the change of field and the lack of any real academic success is probably one big reason why you should choose a diploma. Reason number 2, you don't really want a very research focused career. You'd rather work. You'd rather learn on the job. You'd rather discover your skills on the job, right? Because it so happens that most of us are not probably very, very clear in the early 20s about what we want to do, right? And especially what you're good at. So if that's the case, then choosing a diploma is a lower risk. There's less money involved. You also can do two diplomas, so you can enroll for one and then find out whether it sort of fits your understandings, is in your alley of comfort level, and then take your next steps accordingly, right? So that's a second good reason, is the desire to stay away from deep research, from specialization, more to explore, more to sort of learn on the job, right? And number three, I think this is the most important one of all. You don't want to commit a whole lot of money. You want to be you want to be conservative in your financial risk taking, right? A 1-year diploma doesn't really require a great deal of investment. It also allows you to stay on for one more year, right? And maybe in that 1 year you can also figure out whether life in Canada is going to work out for you or not, right? So there are many reasons. If you're a conservative person, if you're not sure about exactly what your path is going to be, I think a diploma or a certificate program makes sense. But if you're clear about what you want to study and the kind of career you want to set up, for yourself in Canada, then committing to a master's program is probably a better idea for you, right? I hope that debate, is settled in your minds. But if you have any more questions, do write into me in the chat. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you guys have. Well, I'm also quickly going to talk about, the good options for diplomas and degrees, and also the disciplines that you should consider, right? The top universities in Canada that offer, the top universities and colleges that offer a diploma or a certificate program. You're looking at universities like, the University of Winnipeg, Thompson Rivers University, University of Manitoba, also, the University of Alberta. But, you'll also notice that a lot of the colleges that I picked up tend to be in the Toronto metropolitan area, because that's where most jobs are, that's where most companies are, that's where the popular programs are. So we're talking about colleges like the Humber College, McMaster University, Durham, Centennial College, New Caledonia, and many others that I can't really accommodate on your screen here. But I think the thumb rule here is pick a school that's in and around the top cities in Canada. Prefer Toronto. If you're going for a diploma, prefer Toronto. But I mean, if you don't have the language barrier and you know how to speak French, maybe look at the Quebec region. I think that could really be an advantage for you, right? And what about the courses that you should consider? Well, it turns out that while business management turns out to be one of the most popular courses for us Indians, it turns out that the requirement for jobs from the perspective of jobs is more on technical and specialized roles, right? Like hospitality, pharmacy, pharmaceutical sciences, information technology, project management, supply chain, engineering tasks. Those are the in-demand fields. And managerial or business related fields like finance, business management, marketing, advertising, and PR. I'm not saying that these are not workable in Canada, but I think there's a bigger risk involved if you're going in for a generic field, a general management field, as opposed to a specialized domain or a specialized field for a career, right? So that's the thought, especially as far as diploma courses go, because in terms of a diploma course, after pursuing one, you're going to be at the entry level role, right? And at an entry level role, the larger opportunities tend to be in the larger booming sectors. And in Canada, the booming sectors are energy and power, construction, electrical companies, and electrical and power companies, that is, and also information technology. A lot of antivirus companies, a lot of data analytics companies, a lot of digital marketing companies are doing really well based out of Canada. And also, I think increasingly a lot of edtech companies also are coming up. So, but I'd say maybe on the cusp of technology and related fields. I think that's where the big opportunity lies. And I should also mention here that health sciences is increasingly, a popular field to study in Canada because there's a big dearth of healthcare professionals. And well, if you come from a, healthcare background, from a pharmacy background, B.Pharm student, then there are plenty of opportunities to study and work in Canada. What about masters? What are the top universities to pursue a master's? Well, the top 4 or 5 are more or less settled. We're talking about the University of Toronto. You're talking about the Western University, University of British Columbia, McGill University, Queen's University, University of Victoria, University of Quebec, Windsor, McMaster's, and finally, at the bottom rung are a few others, including the Trent University, right? So make sure that if you're applying for a master's program, that you pick and choose a few, at least 2 or 3 in the top tier, right? Which you're going to be more competitive, and a few backup options in the bottom, like a Trent or a Windsor as backup, as more safer options. And what to study? Well, the fields remain pretty much the same, but as far as technical expertise goes, and what programs are valued, are supposed to be good based out of Canada. Well, technology fields, right? IT and computer science definitely fields that you should consider studying there. Also, healthcare and pharmacy, right? Medicine, if you're looking to do a master's, a PhD, or if you're looking to do a master's program in pharmaceutical sciences, ophthalmology, any of those specialized fields like dental sciences, consider studying in Canada. Also, specialized fields within engineering and business administration, like digital marketing, like supply chain and logistics, like project management. Like I said, the demand is from very, very large infrastructure companies, and so find a role that sort of fits in with that kind of a structure, right? And that kind of a demand, at least, that's already in place. Remember, choosing a hot field or a hot sort of sector in Canada is really going to be important, because that first elusive job is could be easier to get if you're in a preferred field. If you don't prefer a field that's popular, if you want to carve away, let's say in finance, and that it's going to be a little bit of a struggle, then be prepared for maybe 5 to 6 months of struggle to find that first job. Maybe you need to start working harder towards your job in your master's degree, maybe even as early as day 1, because networking is the key. When you want to find yourself a job or a internship, then networking and speaking to a lot of people, widening your net of contacts, and communicating with them regularly, and communicating your skills as well as your aspirations is going to be critical, right? So make sure that you do all of that. And how can we help you? Well, our services are pretty comprehensive. In case you want to apply for a master's program or a diploma course, we can help you prepare for exams like GMAT, GRE, SAT, etc. We can also create, your application, support you through the essays, through the various assessments and interview stage. And finally, connect you with the top mentors to help make sure that, you do well at the interview stage, you put your best foot forward, and hopefully a scholarship. Right. Well, that's all I wanted to say. In case you want to find out more about us, do click in the link in the description. You can also contact me at the number that's given there. And do write into me with your comments, right? I'd love to know what you thought about this video. If you have suggestions or need me to cover particular aspects, do write into me. Well, thank you. Have a great day and wish you all the very best, guys.